Thank you, everybody. Thank you, my fellow panelists. It's evening. I think all of us want some energy, and I'm hoping that this panel is going to be very, very energetic. So I have a fabulous set of panelists in front of me. We are talking about the consumer of 2025, decoding consumer of 2025. Honestly, if you ask me, you don't know what's going to be happening tomorrow. The kind of uncertainty that we exist in today, it's very difficult to talk about 2025. But of course, we have a task, and I think we should try to do an assessment of what, in the best of our knowledge, the consumer would be. So what I did was, I thought I'll ask ChatGPT first. What is the consumer of 25 going to be? So the ChatGPT gave me some 7 trends, and this is not me but ChatGPT, but it made sense, and which is why I'm saying what I'm saying. It said that there are 7 key trends that will shape the consumer of 2025. Sustainability, 7. Sustainability and ethical consumerism, personalization, technology-driven experiences, of course it was ChatGPT had to say, health and wellness, convenience and frictionless commerce, diversity and inclusion, and mental health and self-care. So somewhere it made sense, so I thought I'd rather start the whole discussion with this. So with this I would want to start the session. My first question is, we are all talking about a consumer who's hyperactive, and clearly we are talking about an omni-channel kind of an interaction with the consumer, right? So how do you, in your brand, your industry, how do you deliver that? And what are the experiences that you've faced, or the difficulties that you've faced in creating these omni-channel experiences for your consumer? Because they are very, very easily shifting between offline, online, out of home, anything. So you have to be there everywhere. So, why don't I start with Damyant, you on this?
Yeah, thank you. So just to give you some context on how we think about consumers in 2025, we don't really think of consumers in 25. It's actually a journey, but the essence of the way we look at consumers is, and especially what we call our ground zero, we're essentially talking about consumers in the age bracket of, say, about 16 to 24. Right, so when we create marketing, or we create products, or we create experiences, that's really our ground zero of how we kind of begin by creating product. And I think some of the things that ChatGPT throws up, I wish you told me ChatGPT is what you're using, because my notes are from there. But if you think about what ChatGPT is saying, there's this term called the real gen, right? And I think when we talk about consumers in this age bracket, they've been exposed to the internet and to the digital age right from the time they were kids. And so the way they kind of consume brands, or the way they relate to brands, is fairly chaotic, right? It's not linear like it used to be back in the day. And so what's really important from our perspectives is, I think everything needs to start with the product to begin with, right? So if your product isn't laddering up to your grander promise from a marketing standpoint, you will always fail. Right, so that's really the first starting point, and I think the other choice we make is really to kind of bring a sense of focus in what we're trying to tell consumers. And if I talk about our own category, smartphones are bought for various reasons, but we've really kind of brought a surgical sense of focus on what we want to kind of tell consumers about what Oppo stands for, and this, in the context of Oppo, is really kind of talking about camera and photography. And the way you kind of relate then to... Hi. Welcome, Charu.
Welcome, Charu, come.
So the way we kind of build our experience are then so camera first, right? And in terms of the marketing that we do, and the way consumers then relate to the brand, is the camera story is kind of consistently told across all media platforms or comms platforms. When it comes to some of the things that consumers struggle with, or when it comes to relatability, one of the consequences of the digital age is our brand is in their hands literally 7 hours, 8 hours a day, right? And so from a brand standpoint, what we try and do is create our products to meet those new expectations that they have from our product category. And this is in terms of the way our batteries are built, longevity of our devices. And I think something very critical, which I think we'll touch about later as well, is this notion of, how are we making our products more earth-friendly or greener, right? And I think if this narrative is not something which is kind of built into your products, consumers very quickly also reject you. So there's a very active conversation that consumers have with brands in the way they kind of relate to it, in the way the product is built. But more importantly, it's really important for brands to reflect the values of consumers, because they're living through really anxious times. Climate change is a reality they're dealing with. And I think this is by far the most anxious generation that's been around. And so from a product standpoint, we try and kind of address some of those things in the way we kind of build our products, the way we build our UI, and in just the kind of marketing that we try and do. So.
Great. Amedeo, what has been your experience? You have a brand that all of us have experienced for our kids.
Thank you.
No,
I think that what we are facing right now is not anymore if we have to switch from an offline to an online. Is much more to understand which touch point makes much more sense for the message that you want to deliver. Because as we are sitting here now, there are new social media that are coming out, new apps, new way to touch our consumers. And the challenge that we are facing is to understand where our consumers are and which kind of storytelling we have to deliver in that specific touch points. So this is something that we are investigating every day. We are questioning ourselves every day, because it's the #1 challenge. And especially for a brand like Kinder, that of course touch the mothers. Mothers are evolving, families are evolving, and kids are evolving. So it's, again, is a process, never ending, I would say, but it's quite interesting. And it's crucial, I would say, for a marketing manager to understand this and to be in touch with the consumer in every touch points.
Great. Parth, your brand is available to anybody who has a smartphone, right? So how do you see the omni-channel connect with the consumers, and what has been your experience in that?
Sure. Before I answer that, I want to ask this room here: how many of you have heard of Bharatpe? Of Bharatpe? Yeah. So quite a few. How many of you actually know what we do? Okay. So about 2 people. Yeah, of course, right? Awareness is good. So yeah, before I answer what we do about omnichannel, right? We are a fintech. We build payment solutions for merchants. Imagine your Gupta General Store to 24/7 or anything. We provide lending solutions, various other business solutions to them. We also do consumer lending. Postpay is one of our brands, which you might have heard, or Payback, or Zillion, or 12% Club, which goes across BNPL to investments and everything in between, right? When we think of our omni-channel experiences, right? So of course, yes, anybody with a smartphone or even without a smartphone can use our products. But having said that, I think the very definition of marketing has kind of changed, right? Now, every part of your ecosystem is a marketer, right? Why do I say that? Because as the consumer interacts with you at different touch points, there is a consistent experience, and the right experience, the right messaging that Amedeo talked about, and the right product that Damyant talked about, that you have to provide to them, right? So when we do our marketing and we do our omnichannel marketing, that's what we want to create. Now, where does it start is the key question, right? And it starts at having a very strong data backbone, right? A data backbone that is available to everybody who's interacting with the user. Now, this person might be the salesman who's gone to the nearby Gupta General Store to make a sell. That might be a digital marketer who is designing his performance campaign. That might be a brand marketer designing his TV campaign. That might be the customer service executive who gets a call and saying that XYZ is not working, right? So that common data backbone allows us to have a single view of the consumer, and allows us to, and what we work on is defining what is the experience for the kind of consumer that we want to create, right? At the end of the day, what Parth wants would be different from what Amedeo wants, would be different from what Charu wants. And that's where the data play comes in, making that data available, accessible, and defining how do you use that to create positive outcome for the consumers coming. When you do that, that omni-channel is not really about online, offline for us, right? It's about every single touch point where our consumer interacts with our ecosystem. And how do we power that is purely by data. Of course, we can go deeper into it, but I think that's where it goes to saying that everybody is a marketer, use data and empower everybody in your organization who's touching the user or is building something for the user to use that data to get better outcomes for the user.
Thanks, Parth, and we'll come into data more as in the next subsequent questions. I want to pass the question to Tushar, and you sell something that 30 years back we would not have thought would be sold. So bottled water in India at least, and today it's something that we cannot live without. It's an absolute necessity. So what are your experiences of omni-channel interactions with your consumers, and how do you plan your strategy around it?
I'm going to answer the question from two perspectives. One is from a point of purchase perspective, and the other is from a marketing perspective. From a point of purchase perspective, if you look at water is an essential commodity. However, it is an impulse purchase as well. It's a very low involvement category. Fortunately for Bisleri, we are synonymous with water, and that's the first name, that's a top of mind recall. The idea is also to be top of mind in every channel where the consumer is also purchasing. So of course we are present in hundreds of thousands of outlets in the trade, of course. But what is also very interesting is that we have our own e-commerce app which started during the pandemic, where we wanted to provide everybody with safe water, right? It's called Bisleri @doorstep. And right now it has a consumer base of lakhs of consumers who are, and majority of them are a Gen Z base, which we have, first jobbers ordering from us for the daily water needs. And the 20-liter returnable jar is what they order on a daily basis from us. And that business is accelerating at the speed of almost 2x every year for us. The second part of this digital ecosystem is quick commerce. Now, quick commerce with the Blinkit and the Zeptos and Swiggy's and some arts of the world has really caught up, and that's aiding a lot of our smaller pack purchase, where people are having it for get-togethers, people are having for their fitness goals, offices, they're all ordering from that. So the entire ecosystem, you need to be top of mind in all, because the consumer is there everywhere, right? The second aspect which I'd like to answer from is a marketing perspective. Now when we look at various avenues of marketing, you talk about digital, ATL, out of home, but a very important channel of marketing also is trade marketing, where your point of purchase is extremely important. And also what is very important is product communication in the trade. Right? So, for example, in South India right now, we do, you have to talk in India in 1,000 languages to your consumers. So we do a lot of limited edition packs with a lot of blockbuster movies. We've done RRR, Vikram, PS1, PS2. Today we are doing Jailer, and it's a raving success in Tamil Nadu. And what we've done is we've dressed up 25,000 outlets.
Wow.
And it creates a festive-like experience both for our trade and for our consumers. So our entire marketing effort in South right now in Tamil Nadu has shifted to the trade, and we are using that channel to communicate to our consumers. So there is a digital ecosystem, but we are also a very strong traditional retail country, and I think that is something that we can also learn from.
Great. I think that's very interesting, Tushar. So now let me come to Charu. Charu, the question, I'll just repeat that for you because I just finished it when you just came in. We're talking about the consumer of 2025 and how he or she is evolving, and the whole thought of delivering seamless and integrated omni-channel experiences to your consumer, because your consumer today is there everywhere, and that's essentially what I was asking. And what are your experiences at CarDekho, and how do you approach this omni-channel marketing as it is called today?
Sure. Thank you, Mohit. From our point of view as a group, if I say, we have been trying to definitely help our consumers across online as well as physical I would say, contact and touch points. Because when I talk about CarDekho especially, where we talk about powering the car journey, like your entire consumer journey for purchasing a new car. So I think that journey cannot be completed without, I would say, both are a must.
Yeah.
Because when you start online research and you end up buying physically with a dealership, right? But as a platform, what we offer, I think we try to help consumer with the seamless integration of understanding the potential of the personalization, understanding what exactly his needs are, and trying to connect him with physical dealership so that the consistency remains when he actually reaches the dealership and he really gets the same context what he has already discussed with us. So that flow of continuous, I would say, the data, the flow, the visibility, what salesman is talking to him is coming from the online research that he has already begun with us. And when you start your research, you just don't see one car, you see multiple options, you compare them, you read reviews, you see so many options. And if you can empower that consumer to do a lot more than what he can actually just read about, I think that is what we are trying to bring that into picture.
True. Great. I think great thoughts from each one of you. Let me move to the next question, which is slightly, philosophical, I would say. We talk about, and many of you spoke about the consumer being very conscious of the environment and, green. I heard green. Yes. So at Havas, we have something called meaningful brands, which is something that I'll be presenting in about an hour's time. And it talks about the fact that 80% of the brands could disappear tomorrow and consumers would not care. And a brand is meaningful if it is delivering on the functional benefits, the personal benefits, and the collective benefits. The functional benefits, of course, are, whether it's doing the job that it's supposed to do or not. Personal benefits are whether it's giving me happiness, making me, all those other slightly higher order objectives. And the collective benefits are all about whether it is green, whether it's positive towards the environment, whether they are an ethical company, whether they are treating their employees well or not. And what is coming across over the years is that, even the collective consciousness is becoming very important, and which is being seen in a lot of purpose-driven communication that all brands talk about. So it's a very provocative question that I want to ask each one of you. Is this, meaningful or purpose-driven marketing, is it just a gimmick, or do you actually believe in it? And if you do, any experience that you from your own brands could give me or give the audience over here on how it worked, what was the experience about? So we'll start with you only.
So before I answer in the context of Oppo, there was something really interesting that I read about what are called insurgent brands in the US, right? And insurgent brands are essentially like upcoming smallish brands that have a turnover of more than 25 million, but have grown by 30% or more for a period of 5 years, right? And so small brands in the US. And the one distinctive aspect of why these brands grew was because the values that these brands represented connected deeply with consumers who are buying into these brands, right? So I think when you kind of then relate it to what you're saying in the context of the next generation of consumers, the essence of what they worry about is important for brands to recognize, right? And I think one of the biggest issues that young kids today or Gen Zs or millennials kind of really think about is, like Elon Musk says, there's one planet Earth, and we ought to take better care of it than we are. And so this notion of greenwashing or green marketing, etc., I don't think it's a choice any longer for brands, because there has to be a sense of social responsibility in the way you create your product, and of course the way you manage your supply chain. From an Oppo standpoint, there are various takes on this in the way we've built our products. To begin with, there's an absolute commitment to being carbon neutral by 2050, right? But that's still 27 years out. But we're not waiting that long, obviously. And so what we're doing is we're trying to kind of build our products in a way that's environment friendly from various aspects. To begin with, for example, we talk about battery life, right? if you think about why consumers upgrade or change their phones, there are three primary reasons. You either break your phone, your battery kind
goes
of
off,
is too poor for you to kind of use it for any period of time, or it starts lagging, right? Performance standpoint, it kind of stops. And so for us, the number one thing that we've kind of addressed is from a battery life standpoint, our products are now being built for twice the expected life cycle of phones in the industry. So usually phones are built to last 800 charge cycles, which essentially means it'll last you about, give or take, 2.5 years. We're building our products to last for 1600, or we're testing them for 1600 charge cycles, where the battery does not degrade beyond 95%. What that really means is we are building our products to last longer. Now, of course, there's a business implication where the upgrade cycle becomes longer, but we feel it's something that we are willing to kind of let go of purely because it's the right thing for us to do from an environment standpoint, right? So that's the number one thing that I feel immensely proud about what Oppo is doing. So, you know, that's one element that we feel is something which is really important. The other is in our industry, I spoke about how performance degrades over a period of time. And the other element that we're doing is we're making our OS a lot more sturdy, right? And so we're now testing our products to stay as good as new for up to 3 years, right? So in terms of the lag that you experience from a performance standpoint, our products again are kind of being tested to last for up to 3 years. What this means is, of course, consumers who are, of course, very value conscious, in India more so, they see a sense of commitment from the brand in the product that they're buying, but more importantly, they feel it's a brand that kind of reflects their values. I recently spoke about, you know, this notion of how a lot of tech companies are essentially not putting in a charging brick into their products and kind of positioning that as being an environment-friendly ploy. We don't see things the same way. You know, the charging brick is actually an integral part of the battery experience, right? And just because you're not giving a battery or a charging brick doesn't mean consumers are not going to buy one. And from our perspective, the reason the charging brick is put into the product is because the charging brick plays a very important integral role in how fast your phone charges, or just the consumer experience of how your phone performs. So for us, I think purely from a product standpoint, we're kind of engineering our products to last longer, being more green. And I think just generally speaking from a marketing standpoint, using greenwashing, I think, is should not be encouraged, but B, you're going to kind of just alienate consumers if you do not kind of take cognizance of something that is very, very close to their hearts, which is, you know, being more conscious about the footprint we leave.
Sure, absolutely. Amedeo, what's your...
No, I agree what Damyant was saying about the fact that sustainability is not anymore a choice. It's a must for the brands, for our consumers, for the world where we live in. But it's equally important to understand that sustainability must be something that brands take it seriously and concretely, because otherwise it's just marketing or greenwashing, as we were saying. And I think that a lot of brands are doing an effort. Kinder is one of them, and Ferrero actually, because we have taken a commitment to have 100% recyclable plastic by 2025, so it's just 1 year and a half to go. And it's a journey that have started already some years ago, and we have seen already some concrete action. For example, our Kinder Joy, our Kinder Creamy doesn't have anymore the plastic spoon, but it's a paper spoon, so it's a change already. And other initiative has already been taken. Another thing that it's also related to sustainability is it's something that will come, in my opinion, in the future, since we are trying here to decode the new consumer for the future, is the ethical consumption. You know, it's something that, especially for brands like related to food, it's important. It's something that it's not yet there, but I see a new generation starting to talk about. And ethical consumption is something that Kinder was a precursor, since we are talking about kids. Our founder, Michele Ferrero, believed in the portion control. So that's why, you know, we sell just one egg, small, that makes our children happy in any case, with a toy and so on. So this is something that, it will come because will make the difference in the future, especially for FMCG products.
Right. Portion control, that was a very interesting one. Never thought of it from that perspective.
Yeah, no, I know. But because sometimes, I want to be very honest with you, we do research, of course, with our consumers. And in the past, the fact that Kinder Joy didn't have enough chocolate was a problem. This trend is changing. Mothers are becoming much more
Conscious. Yes, absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, children are happy and they're having still chocolate, but in a portion control way, as we said.
Good one. Parth, coming to you, what are your points on greenwashing, purposeful marketing, meaningful communication?
So first of all, I don't have an insider view on this because we don't produce plastic or batteries or, so we don't have that. And we fundamentally work on financial inclusion, right? Getting people who are outside the ambit of credit, giving them, and we're very proud of the work that we do where we transform lives, right? Both in terms of the products that we build and on top of the marketing, right? We would go and entirely redo a shop of a shopkeeper and tell them merchandising techniques, etc., right? But let me step back, right? Let's go first principles first on this. I think the new Gen Z, Gen Alpha consumers that are coming up, they're coming in a hyper-connected world. Two things have happened very clearly. Number one, there's a global tribe formation. You are a person who likes to wear neon wigs on Thursdays. I'm sure there is a Reddit community for it, right? You'll find those 100 people, you'll get on Twitch, you'll talk to them, and you'll probably have a watch party with them or whatever, right? So there is this tribal community building that is happening. Now, the second order impact of that is that the consumption story, when it comes in, every sort of consumption is seen as an expression of that self-identity, and this self-identity is very important, right? I didn't call it out, but this tribalism has led to this very strong sense of self-identity, and consumption is a part of that self-identity. Now, when brands there are people who, when they're consuming brands, they would want to make a statement, right? I wear Yeezys because I want to associate with a certain demographic. I consume Ferrero, or they have an Oppo phone for a certain because I want to associate with a certain demographic. When it comes to meaning of the brand, I think there is one is the ESG thing, right, which is very important. I think we have the Paris Accord, and I think the entire world should be working to that. But I think it's larger than just being the ESG goals or greenwashing, right? I think you can be a hedonistic brand. Let me take a very antithetical position. It's you can be a very hedonistic brand, but you have to be, your meaning of your brand should be the core to everything that you do. That means that you make the products that are hedonistic, right? That you fuel experiences that are hedonistic, that you treat your consumers in a way, right? I'll take a very recent example. I don't know if you've heard of this brand called Mischief. So Mischief is an online brand that does product drops. Okay? Their core brand persona is we are crazy. So they took $1 million painting, cut it into 100 pieces, right? And sold it off piece by piece, right? For $10,000 each. That was the product. That's all they do, right? They'll do these crazy things. But when they do something, it's so much at the core of their brand that when they take a crazy positioning, they are delivering to that from the very core. So if you're going to be a green brand, be green to the very core, right? I love some of the work that's happening in CPG actually, right? Where shampoos, they were deploying a sort of refill machines instead of selling plastic bottles. So you can bring your own thing, and just like you would fill up a soda fountain, you can fill in your shampoo, right? Or water, or whatever you are going to do. So when it comes to meaningful brands, absolutely will play a role, and a bigger and bigger role, because consumers are using it as a matter of self-expression, and that is only increasing. But if you are just doing lip service to it, and it's not really at your core, you're a detergent brand talking about world peace but not really doing anything about it, the consumers are smart enough to see through it, right? You disappear, nobody will care.
Well said. Tushar?
So when you talk about Gen Zs and Gen Alpha today, it's a very woke audience. They're very passionate, very vocal, and they're very informed as well because this is a digital economy today. Right. So at Bisleri, we really take sustainability at our heart. We have a program called Bisleri Greener Promise, wherein we are showcasing our commitment towards environment and the fact that we are a plastic neutral and a water positive organization, and we have a lot of initiatives on plastic recycling, rainwater harvesting and conservation. And recently we took out a digital video campaign, right, wherein we showed our journey through the eyes of a bird. It was a very moving video. So I was in fact personally sitting in post-com researches of this with some 20-year-old college students, and some very interesting reactions came out. They said that usually when we are viewing an ad on YouTube, our tendency is to skip it. This we will not skip, because this is close to our heart. In fact, I'm going to go find it and watch it again. So that's a very telling statement when as an organization, you put sustainability first. Consumers and especially Gen Zs and Gen Alphas are willing to listen. The second program that we have is something called Bottles for Change, wherein we go to multiple educational institutions. Like we have a tie-up with Amedeo, we have a tie-up with Manipal, we have a tie-up with Madras Christian College, for example, wherein we go and educate the students about how to recycle plastic properly, how to dispose of it properly. And we have thousands of volunteers today who will not only segregate and wash their plastic and put it in the right bin, they will also pick up something on the road, because they are so passionate about it.
And conscious.
And conscious about it. So as an organization today, if you don't want brand loyalist, you want brand evangelist, you talk about purpose, because the generation of tomorrow is all about purpose.
Thanks. Charu, what do you feel? You agree with them?
Oh, definitely. I think big brands, definitely, they have been purposefully working towards it, and consumers are really conscious at this time of era. And I would say purpose-driven marketing is far away from gimmick, specifically if we talk about brands who are really putting that effort to make sure that they are able to build that sustainability and everything on ground and making people conscious about their social responsibility. So we as a brand, if we talk about, definitely we really talk a lot about EVs coming in, which is really towards a greener future, and we really want to build that with our ecosystem and help consumers find the right car and right vehicles or automobiles. And also if I talk about other group companies that we have digital loans, which is paperless, which is again towards the greener future. So we have been trying to build our ecosystem entirely sustainable and making sure that consumers really build towards that, and they really focus on that, and they really leverage from that. So overall, if I say this, the overall charter is a big charter, and in coming years it will really evolve for the Gen Z and the Alpha consumers taking it up and talking proudly about it.
Completely agree with all of you. In fact, that's what our meaningful brand research also says, that I'll be presenting, that they're very, very conscious about all the things that you just spoke about. Ours is better than that, I'll show you. No, so thank you so much for your inputs, and I completely agree with everything that each one of you said. Now, we spoke about data, and Parth, you spoke about data and making decisions from data specifically. We all know personal data protection bill is a reality now, and while we are still trying to decipher and we are all not very clear about what and how it is going to impact, but I would want to understand your first perspective on it, and how do you see it impacting marketing and the business, or do you see that the way GDPR has been for a very long time, but still there are many loopholes in it? Would this also be something like that? So what your first thoughts? I know it's still early days. Yes.
Okay. Caveat, like you said, right? I think it's still a developing story. But I think I have the advantage of seeing, like professionally I've worked in 23 different countries, and incidentally one of the times being when the GDPR bill was rolled out. And because my employer at that time was based in UK, so anything that they did in Timbuktu, they could be held accountable in UK as per GDPR rules. So yeah, it was, I think, to be honest, GDPR was a success, right? I think GDPR was much more about informed consent, and not that there will not be people who will try to game the system, but I think informed consent was key to that. Now, when I come to the DPDP, I think number one, it's a step in the right direction, right? You are building a framework as, digital is percolating across India. Amedeo and I were having a chat about UPI and how he finds it difficult to operate without UPI when he goes back home. But yeah, that's the fact of it, right? We have leapfrogged a sort of a digital revolution. And so it's very important with this prevalence of data transfers and data collection that's happening to have a framework to regulate, because it's very easy to misuse the data also. So number one, step in the right direction. Now coming to the specifics of it, I think there are 2-3 parts that kind of stick out for me. I think one very interesting thing that the bill does is, I think the way that they have split on between the processor, the data fiduciary, and the significant data fiduciary, right? Now we'll need to do double clicks on under each of them to understand like what are the responsibilities. For example, data processors don't seem to have any responsibility right now, which is both empowering and scary at the same time. Right? So how does the processor and the fiduciary or the significant data fiduciary kind of operate will be very interesting to see, and how this operates. The second very interesting thing that has come out is the way that they've defined one category, right? That this is personal data. There is no critical personal data, there is no sensitive personal data, which was usually a sort of a GDPR thing. And which is again interesting, because then every piece of data is being held to a very high standard, right, is my assumption. The third thing is the cross-border data proliferation. So now they've moved from an approval to a blacklist sort of a thing, right? Saying that you can do it, but yes, the processing will be governed even in a foreign country, but yes, you can move it as long, the data as long it's not there. And which is a very progressive thing to do actually, because it was a tough time, right? You're on the AWS cloud, how do you ensure that your backup also is in 5 different locations in India and so on and so forth, which became a challenge. So I think that that's also critical, that they are addressing those concerns. So clearly they've talked to the industry, they've figured it out, saying that, okay, these are the key concerns that we need to think about. But yeah, like I say, it's a developing story. So step in the right direction. Some of the pillars and the foundation seems to be in the right way. But it'll all come down to how it is executed and enforced, and to what extent the one thing that's going to happen for sure is that some of the bad actors will be weeded out, right? And some of the sort of bad actors also on the data principle side will be weeded out, because a simple thing like saying that if you made this data public, then anybody can use it is there, right? So it allows empowerment on both sides of the table, right, while enforcing rules of that engagement. And I think that's a great framework to start off with. How it evolves, we'll only know, once it evolves.
Absolutely. Thanks, Parth. Damyant, what's your point of view? First thoughts on how it's going to impact?
I think our industry is going to be massively impacted, obviously.
Yes.
I think when we talk about privacy and security and where all of this data rests, actually people live their lives off smartphones.
Absolutely.
Right? So I think there is going to be a massive impact, not just in the way the product is built, but also in the way data is managed, right? And again, it's an evolving story, like all of you guys are saying. But from a consumer standpoint, because that's what we've kind of been talking about, it's emerged as a very significant differentiator between two very large points of view on how this industry has been built out. And there's the Android and the iOS view, right? And I think literally Apple's kind of used this as a key differentiator between what your experience is on iOS device versus what the Android experience is. The great thing, of course, is the Android world's woken up to this reality very quickly. But I think from a consumer standpoint, what's really important is like Parth just spoke. As long as you kind of put the decision and choice in the hands of the consumer, not once but every single time the data is kind of being accessed, you're in a good zone, right? So from our perspective, what's really important is, and we call it Color OS. The Oppo OS is called Color OS. The essence is put the choice in the hands of the consumer and let them decide what they're willing to or not willing to share. At a personal level, I'd love for this to kind of become a reality, because the number of calls that we get every day from random numbers is excessive. And I think when I spent the longest time in the sports industry, and when I started out in a tech company, I undervalued what privacy meant to Indians. And I've been pleasantly surprised about how well they've responded to this notion of your data is actually worth its weight in gold. And I think 3, 4, 5 years back, people would very willingly give out their phone numbers even when they were kind of getting a simple bill being cut in Haldiram, right? And I think people are a lot more conscious, and I think the sense of consciousness is what's driving the government of India to, amongst other things, drive this privacy bill. And I think it augurs well for consumers, and I think my industry and I think others like the finance industry are going to kind of benefit a lot from this bill.
Absolutely. Charu, what do you think? How do you see this panning? Because you also again completely built on data, and privacy would be an important perspective there as well.
Yeah, I would say definitely the consent, as Parth mentioned, consent is really important, and we have been trying to see that at every step people are giving their consent. Maybe if I say as an anecdote, like if you're looking for, so you're researching and you're putting up your numbers to contact the dealers, or you want dealers to contact you, that is how you're giving your consent to the company, the organization, that you can really help me get the best offer, you can help me get the best deal, you can help me get the best variant I'm looking for, and you can contact me to maybe discuss, to research, to help me choose the right car. So I think that consent part is the most important thing that we have seen in our past and the history. And moving forward, I would say it's more towards encrypting also, because we really believe that the data should be really protected at a very next level, where we are able to encrypt and augment that and make sure that it's not moving in the same pass the way it is being entered. So no one has the authority to have that unless it's consent data. So I think that's how, and at this point of time, consumers also want information being given to them at their comfort, and they want that everything is available online. They want everything to be communicated to them over WhatsApp maybe. So you are giving that authority to the brands that you want that communication back, you want to be reached out. Unless you really are looking forward to close the deal, or you're just in a research mode, you want to actively talk about it, you want to understand, you want to talk to experts. So I think that entire purposefully we are trying to engage with the consumers and making sure that their data is secured, unless they really want to get us to get in touch with them.
Thanks, Charu. Now let me come to a different question, and let me come to you, Tushar. While we were talking about data and brands which have been built over the last I would say decade, yours is a brand which has been there for many years, right? A very, very traditional brand. How have and you've been, I mean, we started consuming Bisleri when we were kids, and that's how we've grown up. And today with Gen Zs and Gen Alphas coming in, how do you ensure that this traditional brand still stays relevant? And we're talking about the consumer of 2025, which is going to be another animal altogether, right? So how do you think you'll keep your brand relevant to them? So what are your thoughts on that?
It's a very, very interesting question, and it's something that we are working on right now very, very diligently, right? We've done a number of researches with Gen Zs and Alphas. We've seen a lot of youth studies as well. A very important insight came out of one of them is we asked Gen Zs, what do you do to stay healthy today, especially after the pandemic? And they said two things. We have a lot of water and we run. So today, that relationship between hydration and fitness is very, very important. So at Bisleri, what we are trying to do right now is we are trying to change the role of water from being a thirst quencher to something that makes you have a healthy and active lifestyle. Right. So we've just launched a campaign called Carry Your Game, right? Where we've launched it with 4 national level athletes. We've got Lavlina Borgam, who's with boxing. We've got Manpreet Singh, the captain of Indian hockey team. We've got Ashwini Ponappa, stellar badminton player, and Nishat Kumar, who is a Paralympian medalist, right? And we launched this campaign, and it had a lot of good consumer response. Everybody wants to work out, everybody wants to run. We've tied up with all marathons, leading marathons in the country. We are actively looking at promoting non-cricket sports as well. While we are part of 4 IPL teams, we were part of Mumbai Indians, Gujarat Titans, Rajasthan Royals and Delhi Capitals as hydration partners. We took out limited edition bottles with them. We did a lot of digital communication with the players on water. We are also tying up with Commonwealth sports. We are also tying up with SAF, which was just a football tournament. India won. We tied up with Ultimate Table Tennis, and we're looking to enter more and more sports to communicate that, you know, the relationship between water, Bisleri, peak performance, healthy lifestyle, and that's the message that we are looking to kind of have the young India sort of adopt, that, you know, you have water, you stay healthy, and Bisleri wants to be in forefront of that message today.
Very interesting, very, very interesting, because, you know, water and how you're taking it into a, you know, different domain altogether. So I want to ask Amedeo the same question to you as well. Your portion control was mind blowing, you know, and I'll always remember it. But again, as Gen Zs, Gen Alphas, and the consumer of 2025, they'll be more conscious, more more conscious about health. How do you see your brand being relevant to them as you progress over the years?
No, it's a very interesting question, because of course we are spending a lot of time, resources to understand the new trends, to do research through Consumer Connect with these consumers. Now, basically what we are noticing is that for them 2 things are critical. One is they have a lot of inputs, so they are overwhelmed with information. And another one is the velocity, so they want something right now. Okay, with all the options that they have in front of them, they want a quick response of what are their needs. So the challenge is there, of course, and what we are trying to do is continuously giving them something new. New in terms of activities, toys for Kinder Joy, communication, storytelling, something that can use also a kind of emotions, no? Because at the end of the day, we are an impulsive product, and we work a lot on the happiness, on the joy of children especially. But it's important that we change the message accordingly with their needs. So you will see our communication, especially on digital, is every 2-3 months completely different, because consumer change at that velocity is a challenge, of course, because our world before was completely different. One campaign for maybe 2 years. Now is another world, but it's challenging, but it's also way more interesting. So this is the way we're approaching it.
Great, great. And no panel can be, complete unless we talk about AI and ML. So my last question will be on that. Let me start with Dushyant. You know, AI, ML, and we are all talking about ChatGPT. Both of us had notes from ChatGPT. So how is it impacting your business, and how do you see the trends going forward? Obviously, nobody knows what's going to happen in 2025.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts, and how do you see that impacting business positively, negatively?
Yeah, no, it's most definitely positive for us. And quite honestly, AI, machine learning is being used in smartphones now for about 5 or 7 years, actually. And so from our perspective, and I was just talking to Tushar before we came on stage, you know, photography today is not a camera taking a picture or your lens is taking a picture. It's essentially AI at work on the phone, on the device, giving you real-time results. So I think when it comes to the tech industry, we've embraced AI for the longest time now. And I think it's important to acknowledge this is not a phase like what the metaverse was. It's real. It impacts life in positive ways, I think, largely. Again, I think we need to understand the negative implications as much as we kind of leverage the positives. But I'm hopeful we'll do the right thing when it comes to leveraging the power of AI. And I think as the world ages, you know, and this is a real issue, not just in Europe, but in parts of Asia as well, China, for example. You know, the power of AI is really going to kind of help translate the evolution of mankind. I think this is probably the biggest revolution after the Industrial Revolution, literally 250 years back. This is probably the biggest change that humanity is going to see. And I'm sure we leverage it in very, very powerful ways in years to come. Yeah.
Thanks. Parth, your quick point of view on that.
Yeah, so I think Damyant said it right. I think the tech industry has been using AI and ML in some shape and form for a really long time. Right?
I just think ChatGPT has suddenly brought it up.
It's consumerized the product.
Advertised it,
It's consumerized the product, let's be honest. It's consumerized it. It's fantastic. There are a bunch of great use cases that are being built on it. I think fundamentally AI, I agree, it is a transformative technology, and what OpenAI has done and some of the partners that they work on, they've changed the way you can approach things. It will help us augment a lot of stuff that we do. It will change the productivity of the workforce. You'll have to harness it in the right ways and do it responsibly, because there are enough and more bad parts to it. Right? So I think everybody's used ChatGPT and Midjourney and Stable Diffusion and all of that. But I think the criticality is, how do you actually use it? So it's great to talk about it, but I'm very surprised. I was actually hiring somebody for a position which is an AI tool user. It's how difficult is it to get people who actually are using these tools. Everybody wants to go on ChatGPT and, you know, type in what are the questions to ask when I'm talking about decoding the 2025 consumer. But if you ask actually somebody with deep understanding, that's very few. And I think that's one skill set that's going to be very, very valuable. It's like being able to search on Google, right? And I think that's going to emerge, and people are going to augment that skill set just as you advance your Google search capabilities, etc. There are two things that I do see as short-term roadblocks which we need to solve for this technology to be truly pervasive and truly transformational. I think number one is computational cost, right? So the computational cost of AI currently is not feasible to scale at the level I would love to see, right? So that needs to be solved. Now, I don't know the answer to that, how they're going to solve it. Sam Altman, my heart goes out to you. The second bit is, and for us, because we are in the financial services industry, it becomes much more important because we need to be exact. Right? It's a matter of money, we need to be exact, we need to be correct every time. I don't know how to stop, if we have an answer to stopping the AI from hallucinating yet, right? True. So I don't know if you guys know that a lawyer asked the AI to write a brief for him, and because he was arguing a certain case, the AI actually invented cases to support his case which didn't exist.
Oh, wow.
Right? So the AI hallucinates quite often, right? And there are ways to break the guardrails and all of that. Yeah. So I think the control of the technology, so both the hallucination, stopping the hallucination of the technology, stopping it from lying, and also putting the guardrails to not declare wrong stuff or confidential stuff is something that kind of needs to be dealt with. But if we deal with this stuff, right, the hallucination and the computational cost, and I think it's great power to augment into everyday life. I mean, you do use AI in everyday life. Absolutely. It's just that you don't use it directly. There's a product built on top of that AI which you use. But you'll be able to use and interact with that AI much more directly, and it will add value.
Yeah, true. It's becoming too human too quickly, absolutely. Charu, your quick comment on this.
Just few points I can just bring upon. AI definitely is booming, and everyone really wants to be part of it. We as a brand definitely are building it up with our tech stack, and we are building it up to making sure that how autonomous consumer journeys we can make using AI, personalization we can bring into their life.
Correct.
When they come back to the website, when they come back to the app, how best interactions we can give him, engagement we can improve, giving this technology in place. Also, moving forward, how we can really leverage this to a next level where people feel really their own personal buddy to start the journey and end the journey, and even after the purchase of their commodity, they are still engaging with it. That's the personalization we are trying to build. And with voice commerce coming in, I think it's already in process. Everyone is trying to build that up over NLP, and everyone really is part of it as of now. So,
Great.
thank
So
you.
one last question. I have 15 seconds, and this is a quiz question which was not a part of this. Just one word. Which is a brand that you cannot live without today? So just one brand that comes top of your mind, which is an absolute import. So we are talking about meaningfulness of a brand. So just any brand that you feel you cannot live without, and not your own. As in, something that's integral part. I can say, I can start with it. I can say Google. So any other iPhone, absolutely. Apple, yes.
For me, I think it would probably be
Adidas, perfect. Parth, many.
I can't think of a brand that I can't live without. There's always an alternative.
Oh wow, that's great.
For me, it would be Apple.
Apple, good. So great. And Charu? Mac. So Apple, good. This is something that's revalidating something that I'm going to be presenting in a while. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It was and lady, thank you so much. I think it was a fabulous session. Thanks for all the great inputs that you guys gave. And I don't think we have time for questions because, or do we? We don't, right?